Parent activists are hopeful about the choice of an interim superintendent for the Boston Public Schools, but they've already begun to think about the search for a permanent successor. Two of them are with us tonight, and both members of the grassroots parent group, Quality Education for Every Student, or QUEST. We'd like to welcome Nora McManus Vincent and Mary Battenfeld. Thank you both very much for being with us.
Thank you, Chris.
I want to start with Mary. Tommy Chang has been the superintendent for 3 years now. And I'm a little surprised about the departure maybe, but what do you take from what we've learned over that time here in Boston?
Two things, I think. One, that it's a hard job in the context of a strong mayor who has his own initiatives. And two, that transparency and community engagement are really important, and that whoever comes next has to do a better job with that.
Nora, what's your take on what we've had these past 3 years?
I think I am a newer BPS parent. This is my second year, and a newer Bostonian. So my experience is that is a lot of what Mary is saying. The community engagement is going to be really important, and I felt that we had more input to give over these past years.
Mary, I want to focus on one problem over the past year, actually, about the attempt to change hours at some schools. At first, it seemed this had a lot of support, especially at the high school level. The central administration approved a plan, the school committee approved a plan, and then it turned out to be a disaster. I mean, what went wrong there?
Right. Well, they implemented it through an algorithm at the last minute, for one thing. Dr. Chang actually has strengths in data, and that's one of the reasons he was hired, but he came, I think, without strengths in community engagement, and we knew that at the time. He worked for the California Charter School Association before being in Los Angeles Unified School District, which is not known for transparency, which fights transparency. So I think that a genuine process where parents had really been consulted. The other issue that came up with the busing and changing school start times is that they really want to save money on busing. So the mayor's inability to give the budget what it needs then hobbled the capacity to implement the later start times for high schools.
Nora, what about the interim replacement? I mean, we're not expecting the full-fledged package for a permanent superintendent, but we have an interim figure. She has some experience with education.
We do. We've been hearing about the school committee voting next week on Laura Perrell. Interestingly, she has given an interview already to the Globe and sat with their editorial board and the mayor and the chairman of the school committee prior to the committee even voting to approve her as the interim. My concern as an educator and as a parent is that her background, which I hear she is incredibly talented and dynamic and good at what she does. My concern is what she does is not being a school leader. We have many experienced educators in Boston who are trained as school administrators, who know this work, who are deep in the work of closing opportunity and achievement gaps, who have done the work of recruiting and retaining educators of color, which continues to be a struggle for Boston Public Schools. So someone with that education and with those qualifications is who I am looking for to be the permanent superintendent, and who I would have wished would be the interim.
Mary, what about the importance of connecting with the community with at least the permanent superintendent, given the population in this school system?
Right. And again, Laura Perrell, my kids have personally benefited from some of the initiatives she's done at Boston Arts Academy and in the arts. But she doesn't come from the community in the deep kind of way. She really is from the foundation world. We wonder, and I feel some concern about who was consulted even in her selection. I would imagine that people in that foundation world knew about it well before any parent knew about it. So that, what's really going to be put in place to ensure that there's genuine engagement with it on a real level.
Nora, if you look at the past, at least permanent superintendents in Boston, Chang, Carol Johnson, Tom Payson, I think they all have at least some classroom experience, at least further back. Was that really a big deal? Because I mean, Chang had that experience, and now we have all these problems.
I think that's a fair question. I think that to take an N of one of Tommy Chang and say that because this is being identified as a weakness, that maybe no school administration is not a necessary qualification. I wouldn't want to go down that road. I think that the work that classroom teachers do and the work that school leaders do at the building level is incredibly complex work. And anyone who's been in the classroom of a master teacher or of a really talented school leader knows that feeling and knows what that looks like. And I think that it's incredibly vital to understand the work that the people that you are supervising, that you are leading, do.
Murray, what about some of the more attractive things in Chang's tenure? I mean, especially his idea of expanding that supply of more challenging learning for students to get into quality schools. Did he do much to really impress you, at least with the idea?
I think that he even took it on, and it's a political battle because not all families or people want that, was great. I also think that he initially even took on the exam schools, and that we're sort of looking at some there. Unlike in New York, where Mayor de Blasio is really taking the lead on that, we don't have a mayor who's actually taking the lead on that. So I think Superintendent Chang did really well, given he didn't have much support from City Hall.
Now, and I also get the sense that the people in the mayor's office weren't too happy with how he went about that. I mean, look at New York. I mean, de Blasio, yeah. He wants to make a change, but he's also stirred up a hornet's nest too.
He has, yeah, but it's the right thing to do. It will, yes, it is a hornet's nest, but if you want to have an equitable system, you need to do that.
This is BNN News, and we're talking with Mary Battenfeld and Nora McManus Vincent from the parent group Quest. Nora, looking to the future with the process of picking a superintendent, what would you like to see?
I would defer to the people who were here for the previous process. This will be my first one, but I would like to see the district take a little bit of time to identify quality candidates, and in that pool of candidates, there must be candidates of color. That's integral for a district with this diversity. Our superintendent should reflect the racial diversity of our students and families. And I would like to see all stakeholders, community members, parents, students, teachers, school leaders, all at the table for the discussion to identify a quality candidate.
Mary, we had a pretty diverse shortlist when Mayor Walsh made his pick 3 years ago. What's the difference in that process that you would like? I mean, would you like to see something more out in the open, or maybe some kind of a committee of different people, including a lot of parents, be also sort of getting a look before the decision's made?
Yeah, they did have a committee. It's just partly the question is who is actually making the decisions. Why are they making it? For example, Quest, our favorite nominee in that pool was Dana Bedin, who is from Richmond, Virginia, who's African American, who parents loved him so much they started a petition called Better with Bedin to keep him in Richmond, and he was the one that Quest would have preferred. Again, Tommy Chang brought some strengths. As a parent of Asian children myself, it was very important to me that we had an Asian leader of the district. But I think that it's not just enough to sort of have parents and community asking questions. We need to be at the table making those decisions.
Nora, I imagine another thing a good superintendent would be important for is getting more money for the schools, because you've got a problem with that, right?
I do have a problem with that. And I think, again, I think it's very easy to listen to the rhetoric about the budget that's been allotted to the schools. And if you haven't set foot in a Boston Public School building, I would ask every Bostonian to find their way there and ask a principal for a tour, see the inside of a BPS facility, and see the way that our kids learn, and then tell me that the budget is booming.
Now, Mary, I know the mayor's putting more money in the budget again, but I guess your real challenge is up in the State House. Could a superintendent somehow help you up there in getting more of that money?
Yes, a superintendent to come advocate actually at the State House, at the State Board of Education, to really push Representative Sanchez and and Peisch to really get the foundation budget recommendations through, yes, that would be great.
Thank you both very much for being with us. In a moment, celebrating the 4th of July with Boston Harbor Fest.